All right, Beyond the Gates fans. Now, initially, I'm like, okay, I made it through the first week by having my reviews up as soon as the episodes dropped, except for Friday. And I said, you know what, maybe I'll just chill because I've been cleaning my office today. Like, I've legit been in my office, reorganizing stuff. But I'm like, nah, I got to get this review out because we're picking up where we left off with Danny and the gun. And I'm like, okay, who got shot? Did anybody, get hurt? And the answer is no. I mean, a lot of hurt feelings in this episode, but I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody got like physically harmed. Well, except maybe Andre in his hand that what was her name? Alex was squeezing while she was giving birth in the elevator. But no, all jokes aside, this was a this was a pretty solid episode, and yet again, I got to give it a 10 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. I do think like maybe the scenes with Leslie and Eva were a bit repetitive just because each scene, or excuse me, each cutaway to their apartment was, Danny slash Leslie, just filling Eva's head with negative things pertaining to her biological father, Ted, and, how underprivileged she was, and, well, they were compared to Nicole and her kids, Kat and Martin with Ted. But yeah, overall, still a 10 out of 10. So I think what's wild about this episode is that you can kind of see how Danny turned out the way she was and the pressures of being a Deepri, and just especially how her mom talked to her in this episode. I can certainly see why when she was a teenager, she opted to break free and do her own thing because the path of a supermodel is no doubt something her mom did not support. So then Danny's like, you know what? I'm done with, the Deepri bloodline and trying to live up to impossible standards and expectation. I'm going to do my own thing, which to me further solidifies why she was so, hung up on Bill, because everything she did, and this is speculation now, but based off the way Danny reacted to her mom, and this is a grown woman, but some parents are like that. If they drilled certain things into your, emotional, um, well, let me rephrase that. If your parents like drilled you or were really strict and whatnot, it doesn't matter how old you are. When they raise their voice or whatever, it can get to you. Trust me, I can relate. But at the same time, yeah, I could see that that's probably why she stayed with Bill no matter what, because it's a rebellion against her parents. And I think I've said this in several videos that she probably did not want to deal with her parents, specifically her mom. You could tell that despite her dad being somewhat stern at times, I feel like Anita was the main disciplinarian of that household, specifically with Danny. So I think she would rather have been married to a cheater than deal with the "I told you so." Yep, that's right. That low down, no good Bill. Well, I tried to tell you, but what did you do? See, that's why she stayed married to him. So, this was really emotional. I mean, first of all, I'm sitting here like, dang, Danny got good arm strength because she was holding that gun for like 22 minutes. I'm sorry. I get it. It's a soap opera. They kept cutting away, but yeah, a good chunk of the episode, or maybe like the first half, you had Danny holding that gun up to Bill and Haley. Now Jacob clears the room, and remember, Jacob is Naomi's husband, and he's a cop, so he is trying to handle this situation the way a cop would, trying to get his mother-in-law to see reasons, but to put the gun down, to stand down, son-in-law. And he's like, okay. So he does manage to clear the room. Pretty much, a bulk of the attendees on Bill's side, they just evacuated quick. And then you have the entire Deepri family and their guests just standing there like, oh my goodness. Like, Vernon, I think, was the first one that stood like, Danny, put the gun down. I'm thinking like, Vernon, sit your ass down. Y'all the ones that was my whole attitude. And I tweeted this out. I said, I don't agree with what Danny did. I can understand why she did it. And then for her parents to like come down on her heart, it's like, y'all made her come to this thing in the first place. I mean, yeah, even though she didn't pull out a gun in episode 1, she slapped the taste out of Haley's mouth, or punch. I thought it was a slap, but it kept saying punch, but she knocked the taste out of Haley's mouth in episode 1 in a crowded country club. Did you all really think it would have been a good idea to have Danny show up to the wedding too? Like, honestly, even though this leads back to Bill, this is his fault. This is his fault. And I still put blame on the Anita and Vernon as well. But even though Bill was like, bring your family, part of me feels like he didn't mean Danny, but he should have specified. I feel like in some respects, they knew Danny was going to pop off. And they just brought her there, to ruin the wedding. That's kind of what I feel about it. But yeah, I don't think Danny deserved as much flack as she got. I think, and to jump ahead just a little bit now, after she's eventually, disarmed, it was crazy seeing how everybody rushed to Danny's side after she pulled a gun on Bill and Haley. Even Naomi gave like a death glare at Bill. And I'm just thinking to myself, this reminded me of the Oscar slap from a couple years ago where Will Smith slapped the crap out of Chris Rock. And then I think eventually we saw footage of what went down during the commercial break after the incident, and you had like Denzel Washington, Tyler Perry, and several other, big names rushing to, talk to Will and comfort him and whatnot. And I'm like, but he wasn't the one that got slapped, though. He was the one that did it. And I thought the same thing about what happened here. I'm like, even though I don't agree with Danny and how she did things, even though she was fine and everything, she was the one who pulled the gun out. Bill and Haley were the victims. Yet everybody rushed over to Danny like she was the one who got hurt. I mean, obviously emotionally, but dang, this was wild. I mean, this episode was something else. But going back to her having the gun, she was dropping bars. Like, look at this little thing right here about to be a trophy wife. It wasn't enough for you to sit in our home at our dinner table and break bread with us and my family. It wasn't enough. You also had to move from the dinner table and get into bed with my husband. I'm like, oh. Just look, shots were fired and she only let loose one bullet at the flower arrangement. So it gets to the point where in the background, you got I think Naomi tried to calm her down, and you had Jacob attempting multiple times, and then Vernon and Anita like, put the gun down, like, no. This is what I want. And during this exchange, Chelsea's phone, which was strangely enough neatly on its side, so it got like full footage of it, you saw that there were tens of hundreds of thousands of people watching. Like, the numbers are going up. And I told y'all, I said, hey, I bet Chelsea has this entire thing live streamed, because we saw her with the phone up during the ceremony. But that was also something I thought about, like, typically, look at the world we live in today. If you were at a store or wherever and it was just a random person came in to like hold up the joint for money, yeah, you're probably going to duck for cover and whatnot. But how many people are really going to let go of their phones? Huh? I'm just saying. So I think it was just rather convenient that Chelsea got up from her chair, put her phone down at an angle where the live stream would keep going. But that's just a plot hole. I don't really care. It's just something I noted, because later in the episode, when Martin is talking to the wedding photographer, pretty much make sure none of this gets out. It's like, wait a minute. So did you get any footage? Like, I got the photo of a gun, but that's it, because my mind literally blanked out and I didn't think about, the job. And that is completely understandable. So Chelsea not even dropping, but putting the phone down. Come on now, that's not. Yeah. So from there, she's just going in on Bill and Haley, and it's like, hey, I have a name. Oh, there are a lot of names I can call you right now. And I feel like when this episode gets dropped, later tonight, or actually in a few hours, I'm going to rewatch the first half. Well, specifically these parts because Danny was just going in, and I loved it. It was so awesome. And I mean, just the acting was phenomenal. Just Carla, she was just, man, I felt for her. I mean, obviously this wasn't the right way to go about things, but she was literally just going in on how hurt she was, the betrayal and whatnot. And I think during the opening minutes of the episode, when the person doing the officiator of the wedding was going into the vows and how it shouldn't be taken lightly, and you could just look at Danny's face and tell that she was becoming more and more unstable, because here she is, front and center to her ex-husband's wedding, about to make all the same promises and vows to Haley that he made to Danny but broke. So, yeah, you couldn't have expected anything less from her once she finally just grabbed the gun. So it gets to the point where she's basically, Danny makes it clear that she is not going to stop until she has had her say. And the icing on the cake is she wants both Haley and Bill to get on their knees and beg for her forgiveness. And when this happened, I immediately thought about Home Alone 1 and 2, where Kevin would put on that old Hollywood movie, like gangster films, which apparently were not real films, but they were films that were, recorded or created for the Home Alone universe, which I thought was pretty cool. So those scenes where it's like Kevin has that gangster movie in, and then the guy has like the machine gun. It's like, get down on your knees and tell me you love me. I'm going to give you to the count of 10 or the count of 5 to get your lying, scheming, no good keister out of my office. I'm going to fill you full of bullet holes. He's like, 1, 2, 10. Da, 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 da. That's what I thought was going to happen, because she's like, get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness. And Bill's like, look, Haley is not getting on her knees for you. Well, why don't you do it? Show her what kind of man, the cowardly man she's about to, marry. Get down on your knees and get in your place and grovel. So as Bill is about to take a knee, I'm like, yo, he's really going to do it. He apprehends Danny, and they struggle over the gun, and it goes off, and we get hit with a commercial break. But apparently neither one of them were actually shot. And it's funny because in the midst of this, the gun goes off. People are like, oh, Danny. I'm like, she had a gun on them. How do we? And based on their faces, it definitely felt like Bill was the one that got shot. But no, the gun went off, and then he eventually wrestles it from her hands and gets it. And then, like I said earlier, everybody rushes to Danny's side, and I'm like, yeah, these two weren't the ones who were just almost killed, but whatever. So from there, Jacob takes the gun and takes Danny to the side, and that's when everybody kind of breaks apart and just discusses what's happening. So you have Martin, who's worried about the bad press, and I'm thinking like, bro, I know Bill and Haley have a right to be on everybody's crap list because of everything that's went down, but given the circumstances, you could just tell with Martin being in the House of Representatives and whatnot, he's more concerned about the bad press and everything. But it's just like, come on, bro, really? But then again, that's how this political game works. So that's when he talks to the photographer, pretty much, offers to like pay for any damages or anything like that, in case, basically hush money, so to speak. From there, you have Naomi, and this is something that runs to the end of the episode too, because Jacob, he's a cop. Like he wants to handle this because it's his job, but then also it doesn't matter that's his mother-in-law. But Naomi's like, but that's my mom, and it's like, she almost killed people, and then this live stream going viral isn't going to help. So from there, Danny even goes so far, because Bill's like, I think you owe us an apology. He's like, oh, I don't owe you anything, but guess what? You owe me, and I'm not done with you yet, Bill. So this woman who just pulled out a gun on Bill and Haley literally threatened them to their face that, hey, I'm not done yet. And Chelsea didn't pick up her phone until much later. So all of this is on film. On live stream. All of this is on live stream right now. So this press conference, they're going to do better work magic. So in any case, you got Bill asking Jacob for like a police escort for his guest, and Nate was like, he doesn't work for you, and Jacob's like, it's my job, I'll do it, don't worry. So from there, Bill goes over to Vernon. It's like, I'll send you an invoice. An invoice for what? For damages. Bill, this is your fault. You're the one who made them come in the first place. So Chelsea realizes the live stream when she's talking to Kat, and is like, oh no, my family's going to kill me. So after that, we go back over to the Deepri estate. You got pretty much Anita, Vernon, Nicole, Ted, Jacob, Martin, Smitty. Everybody's just trying to wrap their head around what's going on. But their main concern is, where's Danny? And she arrives at the restaurant, and her friend Pamela. And thanks to those in the comment section that pointed out Pamela's name, because I don't believe it was mentioned in episode 5 when she ran up to Danny before the wedding took place. But she's played by an actress who is a soap vet as well. So like I said, I'm not a soap expert like I am with the Tyler Perry stuff. So I love reading comments and learning. People like, hey, this actor was in General Hospital, or this actor was in this or that. So it is helpful. Even though I don't know who these people are, but it is good to know, like, oh, okay. No wonder their acting's on point, because they've been in the game for a while. So, she's just there to comfort her. And, even Nicole and Pamela are all saying the same thing. Like, like Nicole's like, I'm her sister. I'm a psychiatrist. I should have seen the signs. And then you have Pamela who's like, I'm her best friend, and I wish I would have seen the signs. But in the midst of getting a drink, her phone is blowing up, and she's like, I've been summoned. I got to go face the family. So just pay for my drink for me if you can, and enjoy the martini. So she heads back. And later on, Doug and Vanessa arrive at the venue and speak with Pamela about the wedding as well. And they just all say that, hey, given the situation, we gotta be there for Danny. And Doug says something interesting, like, well, at least it can't get any worse. And Pamela's like, So I don't think she's aware of the live stream stuff. So yeah. But over at the estate, Anita, Anita is just, talking with Vernon. Everybody else is just trying to wrap their heads around it. Naomi and Jacob show up, and everybody's like, it's like, wait, you expect someone else? Yeah, your mother. Jacob's like, well, I can call up some, patrol cars to, go out on the look for, go out and try to find her. But then Danny shows up, and oh my goodness. And I tweeted this as well. I said, and this is just kudos to the actress who is a veteran in not just soap, but in acting as well. Anita, she came down so hard on Danny, it felt like an Old Testament prophet. She was just going in. It's like, so is this what the Deepris do now? Is this who you are? And that's what made me so upset earlier in the video, where I said, like, I can definitely tell that growing up, Anita was the disciplinarian, and nothing Danny did was good enough. And that's probably why she has some animosity towards Nicole, because I have no doubt in my mind, Anita constantly compared Danny to Nicole. Like, your sister is someone you should look to for an example. She conducts things in a very productive and professional manner. She does not let her emotions get the better of her. She lives up to the Deepri name, and you do not. I'm ad-libbing, but I would not be surprised if this is some of the stuff that was being mentioned as she was growing up. So, Martin takes a stand to vouch for Aunt Danny, which is a good callback, because I think around episode 4 was when Martin talked to his mom, Nicole, about I wish there was something I could do for Aunt Danny. And Nicole says well, if nothing else, she just needs a person to be, she's had enough voices of reason. She needs a person to help validate her feelings. So I like the continuity there. Martin jumped in to try to back up, Aunt Danny. And I love how Anita turned around like, grandson, what you say? But no, he's standing firm. And that's right, because that's the main issue, I think, that comes from the pressures of being in a family like the Deepris. It's more about the upholding and protecting the name of the family rather than taking care of the individual family members themselves. You know what? This is a wild example, but I think Anita is okay, I know the movie's name is Encanto, but and Maribel is the one family. I know, look, folks, this is a a Disney reference. I know it's off the wall, but hear me out here. I know Maribel was the name of the one grandchild that didn't have any like special abilities. Was Abuela? Was that the name? Is that the Spanish name for like grandmother or whatever? But basically, she put a lot of pressure on all of her kids and grandkids to like use their powers to help out the community and stuff like that, without realizing she was the one that was breaking the family apart. I feel like Anita is in that same position where the Deepri name must be upheld at all times. Feelings be damned, and that's pretty much what's going on here. So, in the midst of this back and forth, Danny steps out. She's upset because her mom went in on her. And I'm thinking to myself, you're the ones that made her go. Dang, get off her back. And like I said earlier, I don't agree with how she handled the situation, but y'all put her in that space. Yes, Bill is the one to blame, but y'all were the ones who like, look, the whole family has to show up. Danny, we understand if you don't go. Y'all made her go. Dang. Man, okay. So yeah, well, when Nicole is out there talking with Danny, just like with Pamela, she's kind of blaming herself. But, just like earlier before Danny stepped in, all the other families like, look, don't be so hard on yourself. We all should have seen this coming. Yeah, you should have, by not bringing her there in the first place. But it's funny because Danny's like, Mom, like Nicole's like, she'll get over it eventually. So they eventually go back into the room and Martin talks to Jacob, or actually, Jacob is sent home by Naomi because it's like, it's a family thing. Wait, so I'm not family? Naomi is kind of in a rock and a hard place because she hates her dad. She sides with her mom, but her husband is a cop. So it's like, yeah, we want to keep this under wraps. And she's making all sorts of excuses. Like, it was a private event and no one got hurt. But your mom broke the law. So Jacob leaves dejected. And she just tries to justify the situation. But then Martin is looking at Naomi and she's like, what is it? I don't like how you're looking at me. Well, yeah, I'm worried about Jacob if he's going to talk. And then Vernon goes and says, well, I wish we would have gotten that gun back for him. Plot point. So when Nicole comes in with Danny, it's like, Mother, is there something you would like to say? And she's like, Bill didn't apologize to Danny and neither am I. Dang, that is cold. So then Chelsea comes in and with Kat, and then she shares the news about the video going viral. And I love how the family rallied behind her, because first it was Danny, because she was beating herself up. That's why Chelsea took so long to come in, because she's like, oh my gosh, my family's going to kill me. It's not her fault. Yeah, she was going live, but she, like Danny said, don't blame yourself. And then Anita's like jumped in, like, yeah, that's not your fault. So I love that even though Danny got even more animosity, they took the guilt from Chelsea, which I love that little detail, because she has, then Martin, of course, like, how many people saw it? Can you delete it? It's a live stream. And even, oh yeah, that's right, because I don't think Chelsea would have saved the live stream to her profile page, but people download MP4 files and it's going viral. So she mentions how Kat's like, well, she has over 1 million followers and it's going viral right now. So you use that as like the borderline for the math, because that video is getting some traction. So from there, Vernon's like, you know what? We got to get in front of this. I'm going to make some calls, and the Deepris, we're going to do a press conference. We got to spin this. And Danny's like, okay, you know what's best. And then he's like, no, you stay out of this, Danny. But then Vernon's like, hey, you've done enough. I think you need to keep a low profile. So just based off that little interaction, you could definitely tell, as I mentioned before, Anita was definitely the disciplinarian, while Vernon was more the coddler. He'd be firm when needed, but he was definitely the one to kind of soothe the blow, because I could tell Anita would go in on Danny. Danny would rush off in tears, but then Vernon would be the one who would come in with like a smooth hand to kind of talk her into doing something. And to make another comparison, if you want to look at it from this perspective, it's kind of in a manipulative way, because, Vernon would probably just say something to the effect of, I know your mother can be stern at times, but it's for the good of the family, and you don't want to let the family down, do you? Kind of gives me Catherine and Joe Jackson vibes, where Joe was the stern disciplinarian, and when he couldn't get through to his son, specifically like Michael, it would be Catherine that would come in with a calmer voice and try to appeal to his emotions, and kind of like how she convinced Michael to do the victory tour and whatnot for the family when he was doing hella good on his own off the wall and Thriller. So that's why he, decided to distance himself from the family because they're manipulators. Sheesh. I'm killing it with the references today. So, after that, oh yeah, Bill and Haley in the in the remains of their wedding day they shall never forget. Despite everything that happened, Haley is obviously upset, but Bill's like, hey, let's get married anyway. It's like, well, if you could accept being a part of this crazy ride. And she's like, I wouldn't change it for anything. So they eventually get married, and then they get back to their home. And, of course, there's some decorations, and Bill's phone goes off. Like, oh, no, I hope it's not a flight delay for our Italy trip tomorrow. But apparently it's the Washington Post, a contact of his from there, saying he needs to show up for a press conference. So, let me see here. Oh, yeah, they're going to head back to the country club. Okay, so, this is going down right. Oh, yeah, it has to go down right now because the video is going viral and they have to, deal with this situation right now. And I think I tweeted, I'm like, they're probably going to spin the story to say it was just a stunt for views or something like that. All right, so, oh, wow. Okay, it's almost been 30 minutes since I started, but there was so much to go into. As I mentioned before, the several scenes we have of Leslie, whose real name is Danny, is just her going in on Ted to her daughter Eva, and they just reiterate the same thing about the plan. They'll infiltrate Nicole's life and whatnot. She mentions how during the interview, oh yeah, I could tell Nicole is like uppity and bougie and whatnot, and a picture perfect life, and you could just tell that Danny has been feeding these negative things about Ted her entire life, Eva's entire life, because apparently Ted changed at some point. As soon as he found out that Leslie was pregnant, he left her, went to Nicole, and never looked back since. And I don't know. I want to give Ted the benefit of the doubt because Eva's only heard one side of the story. I mean, how do we know Leslie didn't throw herself at Ted for a one-night stand and he never even knew she was pregnant? And she mentions how he only knows her as Danny, not Leslie. Wait, hang on. Let me look at my notes here. Yeah. And outside of the apartment, I'm not mom. I'm Leslie. Surrogate mother. Remember that. So we'll never suspect a thing. And it's like, when we were at the hospital, did you notice how he looked through us without acknowledging our existence? First of all, Ted had his head down looking at a clipboard. Secondly, assuming Eva is around the same age range, if not older than Martin and... Wait a minute. If Martin's the oldest, Kat is the second, the youngest, wouldn't that theoretically mean that assuming Leslie and Ted got busy before he officially got with Nicole, then they got married and had kids, wouldn't that mean Eva is older than Martin and Kat? That kind of doesn't make sense. But, or unless it was a one night stand, like an affair or something, I don't know, because it's not adding up. I mean, technically, black don't crack, and, just because Martin might be younger doesn't mean he can't be taller. Obviously, like I'm taller than my older sister, but still. But yeah, Leslie, how would he recognize you? And it's been years. And how would he even, quote unquote, not look past Eva if he's never even met her? Even when she was an infant. Like, come on now. But yeah, she just kept filling her head about everything she deserves and what they didn't get versus what those other brats get. And yeah, I'm going to go in there and take care of Nicole and Ted, because she was struggling to say my dad. She was about to say it, but you could just tell that I think as Eva gets to know Ted, he's going to turn out to be the opposite of what her mom has, spoon-fed her entire life. And it's funny because when the family is about to head back to the country club, Ted takes a moment to talk to Kat to check on her, and she's like, yeah, I know being in this family can be pretty wild at times, and this is one of those times, but we'll make it through. And he's talking about like, yeah, you know what? It's like, I'll go through hell or high water for my, kids and whatnot. And I'm thinking like foreshadowing about the kid you forgot about or didn't know about. Now, from there, I guess everything else to talk about pertains to so Derek is at the bar restaurant area too. He's waiting on Ashley because it's the end of the week. Yeah, it's Friday, and it was her first full week at the hospital, but she's not picking up her phone or responding to text. So he figures like, oh, it's no big deal. It's like maybe it's a Friday, so maybe it's a bunch of paperwork and stuff like that. And even like the bartender's like, yeah, it's like it's the weekend, things happen, but this is our first week, but would it be so bad they would get a rookie to help? But he's persevering. But then about hour and a half later, he decides to leave and go to the hospital himself. And it's funny because Ashley's trainer is on the phone gossiping about everything that went down. And I believe she even referenced the live stream about like, yeah, that Danny, yeah, after everything that ex-husband did, I'm glad she shut down that wedding. So that's a hint at the video going viral. And she's just doing a bunch of talking about, oh, Nicole's winning another award. Those Dupree's always raking awards and whatnot. But that nephew of theirs is fine as I don't know what. And Derek gets there and asks about, Ashley. And she mentions like, oh, she clocked out a while ago. It's like I saw her and that Andre Richardson get on a elevator, and then that was it. So Derek's like, what? So they're in the elevator, and unfortunately, there is no reception, so there's no way to call for help. They pretty much have to deliver Alex's baby on the spot, and they just do what they can. And I loved it because Ashley was really professional, comforting her patient. Andre was doing what he could, and just encouraging her and then allowing her to squeeze his hand. So in the midst of the, the push, breathe, push, eventually the baby came out. And when the elevator opens, it's like, oh, there you are. And then Andre's like, it's a girl. So eventually, the mom's in Alex is in a wheelchair. She's just thanking them all so much. And she just says, hey, it will be a shame. It's my first time holding my baby. It's too bad we don't have a photographer around. And Andre's like, oh, okay, I'll be honored to get a photo. And, he gets a photo of Alex holding the baby. And then she's like, can I get a picture of you two holding the baby for the baby book? So, yeah, you got Ashley holding the baby, Andre in the picture too, because the train's like, yeah, get a picture together. And he puts his arm around Ashley, and Derek's like, what? So the way Andre was looking at Ashley in the photo was wild. So then after, the baby's handed back to the mom and everybody, goes their way, Derek's like, wow, you two sure had a night. It's like, yeah, we sure did. So after it's like, yeah, you're a lucky one. You got a professional nurse right here. It's like, yeah, I know I do. So when Derek is hugging Ashley, he notices how Andre is looking at her, and it's like, what? So insecurities coming in. Well, yeah, that was pretty wild. But yeah, folks, this was a great episode. I mean, I've rambled probably as long as the episode is, so that should tell you right there. It is worth checking out. I can't wait for tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I posted a lot of Beyond the Gates content yesterday, so make sure you check out the BTG playlist. All the videos are there. If you haven't watched the show, remember, Paramount Plus usually has the upload of the newest episode around 3 hours after it airs on TV. So around 6 p.m. Eastern time, you should be able to catch this episode if you were not able to watch it live. And as I keep saying, support the channel by watching the content. The more views the Beyond the Gates content gets, the more I know to, hey, you know what, buckle down. I'll get these daily reviews out for you. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.